So you got a new intake manifold and you're looking at it, comparing it to the old one, and you notice it looks significantly different than the original one. The reason for this is this intake is stronger, there is more material here. It is strengthened in areas where the original would lack and prevent future problems. In this area right here, there's more reinforcement to prevent warping. One of the major differences you might notice is the map sensor location. So on this newer intake does not have the map sensor located right here. You're actually going to mount it to the back right here. So with the old one, there's some clips that hold the map sensor on. Just take that out, take the map sensor, slide it in position right there, just like that. In the hardware kit, there's going to be a screw with a washer, 10mm socket, and just tighten this down and just snug it. And that's going to prevent the map sensor from coming out. Now for our vehicle, we have a hydraulic brake booster, but if you had a vacuum actuated brake booster and you're going to have a hose that hooks up, you're going to take this plug off, just squeeze that clamp, slide that off, put that hose right there. Now there's a vacuum port right here. If you don't need that, if you're not using that on your vehicle, which this vehicle doesn't use that, then you just leave that cap on there and that'll be fine. Now the PCV hose that goes to the driver's side valve cover, that's going to go right here where this hose is. So you can take this off right here. Now that's not going to attach right there. You have to take this rubber piece off of this hose. You can use a pick tool to get underneath here. Just try to separate this and then twist it and slide that off. And if you need to, you can pull this hose up and secure that right there, and then push this back in position, and that's going to work just like that. Now I'm going to move the purge solenoid over. Just use an 8mm socket. Take this out and slide that out. Now that's going to go in the same location right here. It's just twisted a little bit sideways. And you're going to take one of these threaded screws that comes with the kit and get that started and snug that down. And you just want to tighten this down to about 5 Nm. And this hose has the fitting that goes towards the back of the vehicle. Just take this hose off right here. This connects to the passenger side valve cover. Slide that off. And then there's a little cap right here. Take that one off. And that hose goes right there. From underneath the intake, you can notice that the intake gaskets themselves actually look different from the OEM ones. So when you're actually cleaning the head surface, you want to make sure you clean everything when you're putting these on, not just the area where the intake sits. And then there's bolts. There should be 8 bolts with nuts installed. When you get this, you're going to have to take these nuts off. So I'm going to use a 10mm wrench and a 10mm socket. Take the nut off. You can discard the nut. You are going to need to hang on to these bolts because you'll use this to install the intake. And do the same for the other ones. You'll notice on the old intake that there is these foam pieces. Those are not required on the new intake. At this point, the intake's ready to be installed. If you have that vacuum booster, you can attach that hose. And then as you slide it into the area, you're going to want to plug that map sensor in. There's the connector for it. Let's move it back a little more. Just make sure these wires are out of the way. Now I can slide this connector in the back. With the intake in this position, it's hard to see. You're just going to have to feel for that map sensor and lock it in place. At this point, we can take the studs for the throttle body and install these. These come with the kit. And snug these down. You'll use a E6 socket Now you can take the throttle body and slide it in position. It might be easier to hook the hose up before you tighten this down. I'll hook the other coolant hose up and move the hose clamps in position. At this point, I can disconnect these hose pinchers, and you can use the original throttle body nuts. Then we can torque these nuts to 89 inch-pounds. Now we can take these intake manifold bolts. 8 of these you took out of the manifold, and 2 of them were in the kit. Get these all lined up. When we're tightening down the intake bolts, there is a sequence that you have to tighten these bolts in, and you have to tighten the first pass 44 inch-pounds. Make sure you're on inch-pounds, not foot-pounds. And then the second sequence, you are going to tighten those down to 88 inch-pounds. At this point, I can slide the evap pipe back in position. Just slide it down here, connect it in the back there. Lock it in place. And then connect it up front. Lock that down to the purge valve. We have this conduit that comes with the kit. There's no slice down this conduit, so we're just going to take a utility knife and just slice down the middle of it. Just be careful when you're doing this. Like that. And because this evap hose could potentially rub on the intake right there, I'm going to take this conduit and it's just going to go over it just like this, and that's just going to prevent anything from rubbing through, and that should be good. Just take this connector before it falls down there. This goes to the knock sensors, and just slide it in position right here. The kit comes with new O-rings for the injectors. If you don't take the injectors off of the fuel rail, you could replace just the bottom O-rings. How you do that is just take a pick, just slide underneath the O-ring, and just walk it off. Take the new O-ring and just slide it over. You can do the same with the others, and then for the top, it's the same procedure. And before we slide the fuel rail back in, just take a little bit of motor oil and just give the O-rings a nice coat. It's just going to make it easier to install the fuel rail. Now you can take some of the new screws from the hardware and get those started. And tighten those bolts down. Now take the fuel line, reconnect it. You can take this retainer that goes on here and slide that in position. Then take this hose that goes to the PCV right there on the valve cover. And with all that hooked up, we can start plugging in the injectors. Plug in the injector, and then as you plug them in, you're going to push down on the locks. Sometimes the locks come out, so plug it in, lock it in, and then push down on the lock. Now attach this hose to this valve cover, and we can connect the throttle body connector. Lock it in place, push down on the lock. Now take one of these studs and slide this in position, tighten this down. Just snug it down. You can use an E6 socket. Now take the wiring harness and just slide this bracket over. You can pull this pipe up a little bit and then put that pipe down. Make sure that lines up good. Now take the old nut and install that and tighten it down and snug it down. Good. Now plug this connector in. That goes for the knock sensors. Lock it in place. Make sure these wires are good like that. Take this bracket and slide it in position. And take some of the hardware and line it up. And just snug these down. Just make sure you don't squish the wires. Those are good. And plug the connector in for the purge valve. And take the snorkel and line it up. And take the engine cover, slide it in position, get the bolt started, snug it down.
Thanks for watching. Visit 1AAuto.com for quality auto parts shipped to your door, the place for DIY auto repair. And if you enjoyed this video, please click the subscribe button.